was not the most impactful person. It was because KT was constantly trying to focus him out, and that allowed for Faker to take over. But now that they know that that pick is in Bang's pocket, do they still go for this? So far, it's looking like a yes, as they do ban out the Ezreal to start things off with the Azir to follow up. Going off the last two games, you can only suspect that Sivir will be that third and final, as it's going to be Nidalee and Kindred yet again from SK Telecom. So just replicating the game 2 bans so far on both sides.
But SKT has to play the game for there to be 3 AD carry bans, so they could have a first pick of Sivir or Ashe if they choose not to ban one of those two champions. Where Vladimir falls in this draft will be very interesting, given that it's just lost 2 games in a row. And they will ban Shen on Blue's side. So if there is a second AD carry ban from KT, there will be a lot of options open for SKT to potentially first pick away Ashe or Sivir, depending on which of those banned away. So I expect KT to look for another ban here and move away from the AD carry focus. Worth noting they are on the red side again, so they will have the chance to leave last pick for someday and find him in a preferable matchup. No Gnar ban from SKT either, and yes,
okay,
they go for the Anivia ban. This was my suspicion, was they would look for this, but what does that mean for Vladimir? Because, again, I haven't been convinced with SKT running Vladimir. They're 0-2 on the season, trying to run that pick, but such is the lure of the power of Vladimir on patch 6.12 that you can't be that surprised if it's a first pick selection.
Yeah. Of course, Fly could always go back to the Aurelion Soul, which was pretty impactful there in that first one. Is Victor also available?
So now SKT have the option of, wait, which would we prefer of Sivir and Ashe, and then KT? They can take away the Vladimir. So this kind of forces SKT into first picking Vladimir just because of the champions available, because if KT take in the second rotation, the champion that SKT have been answering the Vladimir with, the Anivia, has been banned away. So KT kind of force SKT into a first pick Vladimir, and of course Vladimir has been oppressively powerful in recent weeks, so it seems weird to be talking about funneling a team into first picking the Vladimir, but one of the champions that, again, SKT have struggled to take the most advantage of has been Vlad.
But now, with Karma also available and Wolf more than willing to play that in the support role, we'll have to see if KT wants to take it away.
And does KT get forced into locking Sivir this rotation? Because Sivir Vlad, Karma Vlad, giving extra movement speed to Vladimir has definitely been one of the keys to success. Many teams have gone out of their way to deny the Karma and the Sivir from the Vladimir comp, but KT might actually be giving both those picks up.
It's looking like it as they do hover over this Ashe. They could just go with the same first round picks that they did in game 1. Looks like they will alter it a little bit. But Johnny going to be coming out for Braum for the 3rd game in a row, but this time Sivir will be the AD carry pickup.
Blank decides for roughly 0.5 of a second and locks in Gragas instantly, which makes sense.
Not surprising.
That is 5 games in a row of Gragas from Blank, and just going to be the
such
Alistar,
a one trick.
Exactly, the Gragas one trick. Well, they've won 3 out of 4 of those games, and he's struggled the rest of the season, so probably going to be a good omen for the side of Blank in particular. What will be the answer? Because Fly always seems to have these pocket picks to deal with tricky mid laners. We remember his Malzahar against Ryze last season. Vladimir certainly is susceptible to being all-in by Cassiopeia in lane, but it is always risky to opt into short-range mages against champions like Gragas and Vladimir. So the Gragas in particular can just knock Cassiopeia into the enemy team. You just delete her. Aurelia's been skipped over by Someday 2 games in a row, but they're at least going to let SKT know that this champion's still available.
And just flipping through a couple different options here for the jungle. We do see the Graves and the Elise highlighted. Looks like it will be a lock-in on the Elise, and Cassiopeia as well coming out for Fly in the mid lane.
Really risky against this lineup. Again, the laning matchup, 1v1, no jungler. You know, let's just focus on it. It's a paradise for Cassiopeia, but Gragas and Alistar, excellent answers to the Cassiopeia when it comes to any sort of skirmish or team fight.
So with the Miasma, this is an interaction that I'm not familiar with. Does that deny the headbutt from Alistar?
I believe it's an interesting one. I believe that basically anything that's a gap closer you cannot actually pass through, so I believe yes.
Okay, so that would deny that and the body slam from the Gragas. So this does have multiple applications as well as the Blade Surge from this Aurelia that gets locked in, and that's going to set Someday up for this Trundle, a pick that has worked for him a lot in recent history. He's had some very cheeky play on that champion, so this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, his choice of answers for the Aurelia with Shen out of the board. Didn't want to return to the Maokai that KT struggled to make work, specifically in a teamfight context in Game 1, so it's going to go for the more tried and true Trundle. Expect the jungle pathing to be really interesting here because there's both the mid lane matchup and the top lane matchup that can be heavily swayed by early ganks. I have to feel like more of the priority from SKT is going to be holding down Fly and what should be a good matchup for the Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
Whereas the KT may really want to be snowballing and keeping behind the Aurelia. Whenever it's Trinity Force top laner, you want to try and delay that first item, ensure that they are just able to build damage and therefore are relegated to tankiness very much later in the game, because they're going to be squishy in team fights and can be singled out.
Well, it's a really good time for Fly, and it shows just how good he is on this Cass. Because going up against Faker with this, it's going to be a tall order.
I mean, you remember Huhi opting into a skill matchup against Faker in the final of MSI and being punished. Whenever the weaker mid laner is going against one of the best mid laners, in fact, the best mid laner of all time, you worry because the impetus on Fly to hold down Faker and that aggression, it's not Fly's strong suit.
Yeah, not at all. Well, we'll see if he can turn that around and surprise us here as we go into Game 3, the Telecom Wars coming to a conclusion. We'll see who comes out on top, SKT or KT. And what a way to kick off Game 3 with an Infernal Drake. I am already jazzed up and ready to go for this game. And it has nothing to do with this sweet Americano that I've just started drinking.
Looks delicious, Achilles.
It's not. I don't like coffee very much.
That's fair, okay.
But
I tried to transition it.
It's all right.
You're holding me back here, Achilles.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's as wonderful as this series that we've been watching.
I'm ready for this series to find its conclusion, but I'm honestly no closer to knowing who will come out ahead. KT surprised me in Game 1.
Can we just make it a best of 5?
You know, I'll ask the directors after the game. They'll probably be awarding the victory at that point, so that's awkward, but...
Like, no, just get back in. Wow!
Oh, this is fun stats. So
okay.
We mentioned it. 21 to go as of the start of this series. Now just 8 kills. 8 kills for Vladimir is certainly a possibility.
He's
so
just going to get 7 here.
I'm just like... Honestly, the moment I see this, I look to the rafters and I'm like, are there balloons up there to drop down when that 1000th kill? Just interrupt
Hooray!
the game.
Yeah, just like in the middle of everything.
For once, a strategic pause, not a technical pause.
They pause the game, he walks out on stage, he like bows to the audience, everybody cheers, he walks back in, they start playing again.
I actually cast a game of the LPL that was like an All-Stars match where they paused and did random tasks during the game. It was pretty tilting, actually. So
random tasks, such as what?
I mean, I believe there was Cool wearing a Lux hat. It was weird. It was a weird time.
Seems like a really weird time, but that's what you get when you're talking about the LPL. Wolf, though, going to take a bunch of damage. Uses the Pulverize, so they know what he expects for the first point. And he's going to have to start nomming on those biscuits. Bang going to evade that Winter's Bite and actually fires back, so he will pretty handily equalize that trade between the two.
Obviously, health taken away from a support is not really a big concern because they enter lane with 3 biscuits, so actually a lot of regen.
And a Relic Shield.
The health bar of the AD carry is always much more relevant. This started off with Bang having a very big health lead, but with 2 Boomerang Blades hitting him, it's actually slight lead to Arrow. A lot of trading in this 2v2, which has been called Oceanic meta, as the duo lane is in the top.
OU.
We like to flip it upside down, Achilles.
Oh dear. Well, it's going to be a nice start of things to come. I already like the aggression, and that Infernal Drake being the first one on the map is certainly going to help now. We can see Score rotating down to this bottom side someday, trying to bait him in. Duke is still playing pretty far forward. Score just looking for that cocoon shot. If he could get it, he's coming out now. Flashed away by Duke. But he can be sure that Score is going to repeat visit that bottom side before that flash comes back up.
So I alluded to it in the picks and bans. It's a different priority in terms of ganking. The big thing for KT is they want to hold Aurelia down because the big problem for them is, let's say this game degenerates into, or evolves into, depending on how you prefer it, 1-3-1 later in the game. Cassiopeia, very weak in a side lane trying to deal with the Vladimir or an Aurelia for that matter. In fact, Aurelia in general has so many outplay tools against Cassiopeia that it's quite hard for the Cassio to duel against her. So KT really want someday to be ahead enough of Duke that Duke's not a consideration in terms of the 1-3-1. So holding back the 1-3-1 and thus accelerating someday and holding behind the Aurelia is the priority for KT, whereas the big priority for SKT is helping Faker through a rough laning phase against Cassiopeia.
Yep. Well, Blank sitting on a ward in that dry brush. Not aware of it someday, of course. Perfectly knowledgeable that this Gragas is nearby, so feels comfortable to sit this far forward. But he's going to be losing out massively in this trade. Throws down the pillar, gets a jump in. Minions are pushing forward. He'll almost equalize that, but he's down a charge of that corrupting potion, so Duke is coming out on top still. Has that passive life steal on the hit-in style, so innately will be in a bit of a better spot. Someday, of course, has to wait for those minions to die.
Someday's also not someone who's going to be opting into the triple rejuvenation bead start. He's not going to do an ADD. Decides to go for corrupting potion, the more aggressive regen choice.
Yep.
He needs to be careful here. Level 5 on Duke.
Yeah, Duke dashes forward, only gets a slow though on the equilibrium strike. Still chunks him down to half, and that will be the last charge.
It was also really nice timing for Duke because it allowed Blank to just sneak into the lane unseen. Someday would, of course, been much more interested in getting away from the Aurelia, so would have had less of a chance to see any shenanigans involving Blank, who's now very pushed up. They're going to try and gank Someday the moment this minion wave dies.
A very good spot to be able to do so. As he
we get to see his last hitting. Oh, Trundle's pretty easy to last hit on. Oh, he missed one.
Missed one.
Poor effort.
You can see he's still just content to keep this wave pushed up near the tower, so will be safe. And now Score roaming down. There's no vision in the river here for Duke.
He's here for a counter gank, but obviously if Aurelia pushes forward, he will be in a good spot. Aurelia has no flash. Someday did not have to flash in this laning phase.
Yep. But now the Aurelia stuck up by the tower, so should be pretty safe. And diving in Aurelia is a very dangerous task.
It is. Level 6 is observed, though.
They can juggle the aggro with that repel, but looks like they're just going to opt to get a little bit of damage in. A Score goes deep onto him. Equilibrium strike will get the stun, and Someday is unable to close the distance. Meanwhile, Fly finds Blank, goes out the Petrifying Gaze, and he's just going to be firing off those twin fangs. Blank flashes away, but one more hit there from Fly. The poison's getting there. It's going to do it. Fly comes up with the first blood. Perfect placement for him to just catch Blank completely unaware.
So Gragas wasn't pathing naturally into that bush. He had to be very specific on the Petrifying Gaze to get the stun. Credit to Fly, though. He does it. Makes me a believer of his Cassiopeia, and nice first blood over to KT, and that will give them so much jungle control because suddenly Gragas will find it risky to enter his bot side jump.
Yep. And that's going to be doing wonders here for Fly, who's currently stacking up that tier. Now we'll be able to go back, afford some more aggressive items, and will actually have some power that he can bring into that mid side and try to start whittling down Faker's HP bar. Currently has that Spectre's Cowl, so going to be absorbing a good amount of the damage. But we'll see what he decides to go back and get. It's going to be the Negatron cloak here for Fly.
Didn't mention it, but Ghost Flash was the summon of spell choice for Fly. Much more aggressive than we see on most Cassiopeia players, but decided not to take the cleanse, which is a really big risk against specifically Ashe once we get through to the team fighting phase and Ashe gets access to the entire Crystal Arrow, but honestly against Aurelia too. So while the jungler isn't an Elise that you kind of have to opt to get the cleanse into, this is an aggressive move from the Cassiopeia.
Oh, aggressive move from Faker as well as he roams up to this top side. They did spot him with the ward.
Someday has teleport.
But they are pretty well positioned to go for a dive. Eagle Plug, of course, is available, but looks like Faker is just going to have to opt into backing off, as Arrow and Hitchani will be able to slink their way out of that top side, but they are giving priority on the tower over to SKT. We'll be able to get a good amount of damage in.
Good roam timing from Faker. He knew that Fly was getting blue buff, so gave him space to push the lane and roam to top. Continues to grow the CS advantage. It's now at 17 between Bang and Arrow, and it looks like Arrow's going to try just enter the bot side. This does, of course, give them some bot side control as Infernal Drake will spawn, and given that they've killed the jungler in his own jungle and they're going to send their duo lane bot, KT, next part of the plan, especially with a Cassiopeia with blue buff, one of the trademark champions for taking down neutral objectives with the Twin Fang spam, is to pick up that all-important first Infernal Drake.
Yep. So you control over the Tri-Brush coming through from Hachani, but it's going to be cleared out by Wolf, who has that pink. Score sweeping through this river as best as he can. So this might just be one of the later Drakes that we see in the series. But pre-10 minutes, not that surprising that it hasn't been touched yet. Johnny and Arrow going to be continuing the 2v2 now in the bottom side. And they can keep pushing forward towards this turret. Really aggressive teleport going to be coming through. That's going to be the Glacial Pitcher thrown out as Johnny takes aggro over that one. Arrow used by Bang. Locks up Someday. Flashes forward, trying to finish off Johnny, but he's not able to find the kill. And Bang is going to go down. KT still sticking in under here. Wolf has that Alistar ultimate up. Score getting jumped on. Will be able to repel to safety. Somebody's still sticking around, but Faker is coming in now. Somebody has to get out of here as best as he can. He gets popped up by that Pulverize. Petrifying Gaze locks him up for a little bit, but Faker comes forward with the Ghost and is able to finish off the Trundle. Overall, it's going to be a 1-for-1 off of a very aggressive play by KT.
But this is the important part of Kilios. Duke did not need to be in that fight. Couldn't even be there because he didn't have teleport and is able to get solo farm in a lane that he was significantly behind the Trundle. So KT know that this is going to be at worst 5v4. They have Cassiopeia rotating first. So they think this is going to be 2 easy kills than an escape. But in the end, Wolf just too tanky with the Alistar ultimate. They're not able to switch on to Blank with any ease, so it was very important that Blank was passing towards bot. Faker finally gets there, but someone had to die, and that person ended up being Someday, while Duke, as we said, got ahead in top lane.
Yep. Someday will still maintain that CS lead, but still only 500 gold separating, and KT, losing that Trundle, not able to make a play onto the Dragon to try to follow up off of that kill.
The Dragon is such an important win condition for KT. Difference between the two teams is that SKT have the hard initiation of Ashe, Alistar also, Aurelia situationally can initiate. So team fighting options in the late game are there for SK Telecom. They also have Vladimir, who's probably the hardest scaling champion next to Sivir of any of them in this game, whereas KT, sure, they can rush in with the Sivir, but they don't have hard initiate outside of the Cocoon, which is much more situational. So this is a team comp that's so much stronger in kiting back around an objective than actually searching out for a first kill. Cassiopeia, in general, finds it very hard to team fight because she does single target short range damage, short to mid range damage, so much stronger when you're coming into Cassiopeia trying to dive someone rather than necessarily diving aggressively as the Cassiopeia. So with those options in the late game, you have to like the comp for SKT if things go even or ahead around the 30-minute mark.
Yep. Score roaming up this top side, trying to get on the Duke, who has used the flash. The Cocoon's not going to land. Score is still sticking in here, though. Gets locked up by the Equilibrium Strike. Will follow through with the repel, finds the kill. That's going to be another one on the board for KT, but showing up in that top side, that's going to give SKT an opening for this Infernal Drake. The arrow gets thrown out, but it's not going to connect. But all the same, Infernal goes down, and it had to show its face at some point. Cloud Drake will be the next one up.
So this is KT sticking with the playbook I outlined. Get Someday ahead. They sacrificed a lot going for that teleport play that only ended up in a 1-for-1, but they returned to the win condition of holding down the Aurelia, delaying the power spike of Trinity Force, ensuring that Trinity Force and Tanky is a late game thing rather than a mid game thing. And to them, that's more important than an Infernal Drake.
Yeah. Someday, though, finishing out that Tiamat will be the Titanic Hydra coming in for him. And hopefully this time around on the Trundle, he will itemize some armor, because the last time he played against an Ashe, it didn't go so well. He's playing Renekton, and he got bodied, but Duke going to come in and try to ward this one. Cocoon comes out immediately with the concussive blows there to lock him up. Pillar comes down to slow him. He throws out the ultimate, just trying to buy some time, dashes away, but he's going to go down. It's another kill for Score. And Duke has got to be getting a little peeved at this.
I mean, it's dump on Duke week. This is what Rux Tigers tried to do, you'll remember, hold back his gangplank.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't work. At the end of the day, SKT had more advantages and were able to take him down. They've just decided to hold back the Aurelia as much as possible. This time, even adding Hachani to the mix to make sure the kill was guaranteed. Passing over the Rift Herald to Someday is probably the next stage of making Duke's life a living hell. But if SKT can win the rest of the map and continue to stack things like Drake, it will undo a lot of the good work that's mostly been centered around Someday and setting up the top lane matchup.
Yep. Duke probably thinking like, I'm okay, I'm safe, there's no Talia this time. And lo and behold, there's an Elise, a Braum, and the Trundle waiting.
I mean, out of context, your bot lane's like, what are you doing, man? You just got back to lane. And he's like, I was going to ward. I had a ping.
I was trying to protect myself, but it was too late. But poor Duke, now dying twice, giving Someday a further lead in CS, as he's currently up by about 20.
And guess what? Now there's pink and green wards around his turret, and he has no turret, so now he's overextended every time he enters lane, and Someday will do his best to freeze and decrease the options for Duke.
Really hard to freeze when you do have that Tiamat, though.
You can do your best. Slowly push, though, as you mentioned. But, yeah, it's no good places to enter. Obviously, jungle experience was adjusted as well, so the Gromp not as valuable as it once was for laners. Duke's on a budget.
Yep.
That's why
I believe it was Smeb when he played the Renekton. Actually opted to not go for the Hydra early on, or not even go for the Tiamat, so he could actually regulate the waves more easily. Already has a good amount of pushing power with Renekton, but opted to just go for the Black Cleaver. You can see though, very aggressive TP coming in for Someday as they try to cut off Blank. He throws out the cast. He's still stuck in the pit, and he is gonna go down. Arrow finds that kill, and KT just pulling the trigger on these time and time again, and coming out with the kills. 5-1 now, with a 2.6 thousand gold lead. KT are looking really strong just 15 minutes into this, but score maybe too far forward. It goes up with a repel. Does he dodge out the Chemo Plague? Looks like he did, so nicely played by him. Gets himself to safety.
And Trundle. Seems like Someday finds it easier to get the teleport Trundle flanks than he did on the Maokai in the previous game, which is amusing in its own right, but
yeah.
He's not punished in any way. He comes back top, the wave's pushing into him. Happy times for the Troll. Just continues to grow a CS lead. All three parts of the Trinity Force completed, but no recipe yet for Duke.
For some reason, the point-and-click CC was just too hard to figure out.
Too much skill cap there. I mean, Trundle, honestly, is one of the most simple champions to play. The only skill shot he has is the pillar.
Smack people with a big stick.
That's why whenever someone makes a skillful Trundle play, you're like, whoa! Like when they mini-stun someone into a wall for 7 seconds with the pillar, that part's cool, but that's really all he's got going on.
Spiderling goes out. They will spot them, but it's too late to collapse in. And now Blank arriving in this bottom side. Going to try to clear out this pink. They will be able to secure it. And that should just be the junglers going their separate ways. Second Dragon spawning in a minute and 30. Of course, Cloud Drake, so who knows how long that thing's going to sit there.
Someday everywhere on the map because he's just able to push up and not the same options for Aurelia. He's going to walk back top now as KT trying this full court press. They want to take down that outer ring of turrets, the #2 in the league on that stat behind SKT, ironically. So if they're able to do that, they can continue to make the aggressive teleport plays that have already seen them go out to a 4-kill early lead.
Yep. Let's see, it's the Abyssal Scepter completed there for Fly. As that lost chapter in the inventory as well as the tier still stacks. Faker going really aggressive. Second item, the needlessly large rod.
It's probably going to be the Rylai's.
Yeah.
Acquiring targets, bit of slow.
Still starting with this is it's pretty aggressive.
He needs to apply pressure to Fly. You can't just go for the same build when you're against a tricky matchup. There's no world where Vladimir and Cassiopeia run at each other at this part of the game that Vladimir wins. So he's just trying to be cheeky, poke in for a couple of Q trades and stay competitive with the Cassiopeia.
See though, it's going to be the second turret going down here for KT.
Arrow's gone for this New Age item build. Infinity Edge first. He did this earlier in the week. What it gives you is that if the luck is in your favor, you get a Ricochet crit early, you can wreck a backline.
Body slam missed by Blank, but the Cocoon missed by Score. They will be able to successfully disengage. The Scuttle Crab going to live for a little bit longer. Now Hachani joining the rest of his team in that river.
Duke is really far behind. It's a late Infinity Edge and has no other tankiness, so isn't team fight ready. Can't 1v1 the Trundle at the best of times, so...
Trinity Force.
You're correct, Trinity Force, sorry, so... There's no way really to enter lane against the Trundle.
I.e. Aurelia, we're going hard in the paint, boys.
One day. The dream. And now he's got the Rift Herald.
If anyone's going to build it, it's probably someday.
That's true.
But yes, he does have that Rift Herald buff now, and that's just going to make Duke's life even more of a living hell. Cloud Drake has spawned. SKT are poised to take it, but why would they?
KT just going to continue playing around their strength, which once again is someday, and playing around the weakness, which is the no wave clear of Aurelia. Ash Arrow goes long.
They try to get the pick onto Fly in the mid side, but they were unable to do so. But that does push him up the river, so they will be able to get onto this tier 1
slowly
and take this out. But they just lost a tier 2 in top. So decent trade. Does open up the map a little bit for them, allows them to push in a little bit deeper. But with the tier 1 still standing on the top and bottom side of KT, it's not nearly as effective as it could be in other situations. SKT looking to pinch up. Miasma thrown down beautifully by Fly to block out that headbutt from Wolf. Nachani goes forward, finds a winner's bite onto Faker, throws at the Glacial Fissure, will pop him up, but he's taking a hell of a lot of damage now. Someday coming down on the hunt has been burned. Score arriving as well. Petrifying Gaze not going to catch anybody, but it does slow them up. Fly getting exhausted. Duke just dashing into the backside. Takes out Hachani. He's going to take down Fly as well. Now trying to get over onto Arrow, but he falls down before he can even touch him. A double kill for Faker. Score the only one from KT left alive. And this is looking very reminiscent of Game 2.
Against the run of play, SKT win a massive fight, 4-for-1, and all off the back of an amazing barrel by Blank. In the middle of 4 members, sent them all in different directions. But at low health values, easy for Aurelia to get a Blade Surge reset on the first kill. That was Hachani, then jumped straight onto a low health Cassiopeia. Nothing she can do after the gap close. Faker jumps up to 995 with the 3 so far this game. And who's to say we won't see the 1,000th kill of Faker's career that extends now 4 years. Exciting times.
Yep. He was pretty much neck and neck with Prey as of 2 days ago, but now going to be significantly further away. Score sitting in the brush. The hawk shot comes out, and Score will back off. Just checking for that Cloud Drake, which Score will now go ahead and start up. And you know, you're in a rough spot when this is your consolation prize to getting 4 members killed on your team.
You're right. Cloud Drake
it's the punishment. We just beat the crap out of you, and now you have to go take a Cloud Drake.
Yeah, look, you take what you can get, but KT had been so smart in the early game.
Yeah.
This misfire around a team fight costs them in more ways than just the gold necessarily shows. They're 800 gold ahead, but Aurelia out of nowhere, Ninja Tabi and the Giant Spell starting to get that tankiness that Trundle already has. CS values have been good for the bottom side of the map. Vladimir and Ashe both significantly ahead of their opponents, so to say about really spending 20 minutes playing smart League of Legends, then getting a bit too greedy around a fight that was just about Hachani being a little bit caught after that outer turret went down for KT.
Well, KT losing 4 members like that, certainly a rough spot to be in, but definitely not out of this game yet. Have that very slight gold lead. They're still up a tower. Now at least have a dragon to their names, albeit a cloud. Mountain will be the 3rd one spawning. So at least getting the 2 best ones in this match.
Aegis is something that they desperately need though, KT. They're going to be opting into the AoE damage of specifically the Vladimir. And for now, they're not going to get it. Much more selfish itemization for Score, who awkwardly has 4 of the 6 kills for KT Rolster.
Yeah,
does have a lot of damage though.
He's been taking a lot of those. Faker going to be able to get his way out of there. Still has the Flash and the Ghost available. So he's in a pretty good spot still.
When you snowball as a Lee, there's 2 schools of thought. You can just go super tanky, or you can rush ability power like someone like Peanut is known for. I would have liked a snowball locket, or perhaps a return to the MSI meta and gone for one of the other Aegis upgrades. Banner of Command was the big popular one in that patch, which gives you a bit of ability power, but specifically the Aegis. This is a Cassiopeia comp, so there's a lot of Baron damage.
3rd game in a row. Duke not there. He doesn't have to teleport up, and this Baron is already insanely low. Arrow comes out, does catch Fly as Blank moves forward. He's going to be looking for the steal. Wolf at the thick of the pit gets a big pop-up. Arrow going low. He will fall as Faker takes him out. That's going to be the 2nd one falling as Hachani goes down. Fly going to follow suit and Score, and someday nowhere to go. It's going to be an ace. It's going to be a Baron going over to KT, but I think SKT will take that play any day of the week. Now, with no one up on KT, what can they take away? Wave's not really pushed. Doesn't look like a whole lot, but that's still a massive win for SK Telecom.
KT opened up Game 1 with a 20-minute Baron, but the Game 2 Baron was what really gave SKT a window, and the Game 3 Baron was ill-advised. Sure, they have the Cassiopeia, but the moment you're caught out with Baron around 4,000, you need to make the emergency retreat. Instead, they commit to it. They're all in the AoE. The Gragas ultimate to knock them further into the pit, and then the Hemo plays. They're taking massive damage from Baron, from multiple members. Irelia's never able to get to this fight, but it's not a 5v4. It's 4 and Baron versus 5, and that 4 was easily going to win. So KT, they get the buffs, they get the gold, but all the buffs are gone. And while they may have the gold, SKT find themselves with now a strong foothold in the game and their first gold lead after KT had the runnings of the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, and that is a very scary place to be in, getting the Baron and still losing out on a lead. SK Telecom, fortunately for KT, not in a position to push down any of those remaining Tier 2 towers. Tier 1 in the top side does go down, however, and that's going to help SKT get back into this game and take that foothold. Mountain Drake going to be spawning in about 2.5 to 3 minutes, and if SKT can get that, it's going to be looking really bad for KT.
And the mystifying thing for me about KT is they've done this 3 games in a row, gone for an early Baron, and fool me once, fool me twice. That speaks for itself, but someday being chased down. But the more mystifying thing to me is that flash away.
What a surprise.
Is
KT
that
is chasing Doom.
Score has all the gold, but he hadn't invested into defensive stats. He was taking a lot of damage from the Baron. He didn't have a Randuin squid at that point. He had basically the build you see now, just a giant spell and the health from the Proto Belt. So he was squishy. Trundle had to be showing for them to try to sneak this Baron. He was the only one who was actually tanking when it came to taking Baron. So there's so much risk about that play. You're already winning the game. Why go for the Hail Mary play when the standard playbooks seem to be looking pretty damn good?
Yeah. Well, definitely costing KT significant amount. Faker has been splitting down that bottom side, taking out the Tier 1 tower. And all KT has really been able to get for it in the last couple minutes was a flash away from Duke. So definitely not the strongest of trades to be made. Someday coming down here trying to get on the Faker. Flies there to follow up. Faker does have flash available, could go over the wall. Might have to do that, but he gets caught by the Cocoon and they just burst him down. Nice pick there by KT. But they need to continue capitalizing. They need to get more objectives in to regain a lead, get that foothold, and be able to close out this game. Because right now it's still a ball in SKT's court.
And that's the thing. It's a pick reminiscent of the picks they were making in Game 2 that extended the game but couldn't actually buy them objectives. Now, Drake will be spawning in 15 seconds. Faker won't have a way to get there because he can't even ghost from base. So that could be a second Drake over to KT.
Yeah, and the Mountain would be very strong for them.
For me, the most important thing is clearing out the ward. Still a pink ward in the brush close to where Avatar would have been.
Cocoon comes through from blank. He's able to body slam out of the way, however. Can he go for the steal? Does have flash available if he wants to go super greedy. Faker just now respawning. They can't contest this, and that will be the Mountain Drake going over. We'll have one more spawn before that Elder Dragon shows his face. Didn't quite catch a glimpse of what it is, but I think it might be another Mountain Drake.
Just feeling it? Feeling the Mountain Drake?
I am. I'm feeling the Mountain.
Well, Triple Mountain was what KT had in Game 1 that they won, so...
Yeah, the double would be nice. Score going to get caught out here by the arrow, but he's still pretty safe. He's able to rappel up, go over that little wall. Someday splitting around the backside, gets onto Wolf, jump forward with the Proto Belt, but now the TP's coming straight into the thick of the fight with Duke. And we'll see what he wants, who he wants to target. Could be Arrow, who flashes out of range, but Johnny is going to fall, and that's Fly going down as well. Now Someday in no man's land has flash available, can't get to the wall. Failed flashes actually. He goes down and then Score gonna get taken out by Wolf. 4 members fall. It's just Arrow alive, and SK Telecom yet again nearly wipe out all of KT, and that is going to be an inhibitor going down.
SKT just have all the go buttons, Ash, Arrow, the ability to just catch Cassiopeia in no man's land. They just want to end the game and kill
yeah. They go for Arrow, can't quite finish him off, but they still have 25 seconds on somebody, 20 on Score. They're going to go for this one. The Nexus turret's being engaged on. It's 28 minutes into the game. This would be very early victory here Achani comes up. Can they finish this? Faker goes forward. Double ban pulverized there by Wolf. He's going low on mana. Duke dashes forward, though. They'll be able to finish off the Sivir, and that's going to be the game. Going over to SKT. Very convincing here in Game 3. KT having a lead and throwing it away at Baron. And SK Telecom will win the Telecom War yet again. 28.5 minutes, 15-7. And they got to be feeling pretty good about that win. Coma as well coming in. You get happy Coma today.
You just have to feel like KT will walk away with this series with just regrets because they came so close in all 3 games of Achilles. They came over the line in Game 1, but in Game 2 and Game 3, they had excellent footholds. They had excellent early game decision-making. They had a win condition in this game. They kept Duke behind until a point. And unfortunately, in Game 2 and Game 3, it was all until a point where they just went for too decisive a call. The Barons were unnecessary in Game 2 and Game 3. Keep playing around the weakness of the Aurelia. Don't go for this all-in play when you're ahead. When you're behind, throw in the Hail Mary. Nobody goes for the Hail Mary when they're winning.
Yeah. See, though, damage to champions this time, it will be Bang coming out on top with that Ashe. Faker very close behind, and KT still keeping it very evenly spread, but this time the numbers are just significantly lacking. Almost twice as much damage dealt on the side of SK Telecom than anybody on KT.
So decisive was the ending, but that's what happens when you have the tools to be decisive. Ashe Arrow, stuns, Gragas ultimate. These are decisive pick tools to accelerate a lead. When you draft Azir, Trundle, Kiteback comps, you can't finish games as fast because you don't have the tools to. SKT had those tools. KT gave them the gold to get a foothold, and the comp did the rest of the work.
Yep. Unfortunate for KT. But hopefully for them, this can be a learning experience and they can come back into their next game and figure things out. So you know what? Maybe we shouldn't go for the Baron right now. Maybe we should make a play elsewhere. But either way, SK Telecom still looking very strong off the backside of this win, the backside of their win over Rocks Tigers. So coming back into form, might be able to continue being on top of the standings because this win does net them first place in LCK.
Right, they supplant Samsung to put themselves in first spot. They will also get to see Rocks Tigers, who are another team that could go 8-3. They will not be able to go ahead of the teams ahead of them, though. So SKT go into the weekend, as they have so many times over the course of the years, top of the LCK.
That they do. But all right, let's see. Your MVP. It's going to be Faker. So double MVP for him. I think he secures himself a firm second place, maybe tied with Beyond. But 7-1-1 on the Vladimir and 93% kill contribution. This game was pretty much the Faker show on Vladimir, so finally netting himself a win with that champion.
And with that 7 kills, he gets precariously close.
I said he was only going to get 7.
1,000. He's at 997 kills. We will see him again very soon, Achilles. He plays on Monday in what should be a really exciting one, because on Monday we have SKT against an in-form MVP.
Isn't he at 900? Wait, how close is he at?
I believe he was at 997. I could be wrong, but
okay.
He's very, very close. Probably will hit it on Monday, you'd have to think, but we're going to see the replay. He made the Vladimir
Oh wait, no,
work.
because he was 8 kills away, so he should be at 999.
Wow.
So he's right on the cusp of it.
That is definitely going to be an exciting stat to hit. The best player in the world hits 1,000 lifetime kills in competitive play, but had a difficult lane matchup, made it work. KT were much more interested in keeping Duke down, but in situations like this that present yourself when the enemy team has no true tank, tanking up Baron, Team of Plague on 4 members, you see the rest in the highlight clip. No explanation necessary. Faker was given a paddock to gallop in, just like a horse. He does it quickly.
Yep. And it's just unfortunate for KT because their next matchup is just as tough. They have Rocks Tigers coming up on Tuesday, or rather on Wednesday. So they don't get much of a reprieve in the near future. As you mentioned, MVP for SKT. MVP has still been looking really strong, but we saw what happened the last time those teams clashed. Game 1 was a complete shutout. MVP unable to pick up a single kill, tower, or dragon. We'll see if SKT can make that happen again. But Faker, still the best player in the world.
Just a couple of kills, perhaps even one, from an interesting record that I imagine that the casters will ask him about. Almost ready for a solo interview with Faker, always a treat.
Yep. We'll throw over to Joel here for the translation. We'll hear from the MVP himself.
Thank you very much, guys. So we are here with Faker, the only MVP for today's games. Give them a good round of applause. Faker, congratulations on your win. Give us a comment on the win today. Similar to the game 2 days ago, and we thought that this wasn't an easy game to win, and I'm really happy, really satisfied to get the win today.
예전의 역사를 봐도 그렇고 이번 시즌도 그렇고 항상 SKT를 보면 그런 강팀들 상대로 더 잘 잡는
We always have seen in the past, and we've seen it today, where SKT seems to do better against the better teams. Do you have some kind of motivation you go into the games before the game and to get those better performances out of the better teams?
일단 강팀을 만나든 좀 하위 팀을 만나든 약간
Well, for us, we don't personally experience the difference between facing those different teams. Whether we're facing top teams or bottom tier teams, we just always try to do our best.
저희 입장에서는
And just trying to figure out plans for strategizing against each team is our plan, and it really didn't have a difference between us personally facing against those different teams.
아무래도 강팀들은 또 많이 맞붙어서 무너졌던 경험이 있다 보니까 좀 그런 부분이 큰 것 같습니다. 오늘 경기에서도 또 블라디를 상대로 애니비아를 꺼내들어서
You picked out Anivia versus Vladimir today,
전승을 달리고 있어요.
and you really showed a good performance against it.
그런 플레이에 자신감이 어디서
And what are some of your sources for this confidence that you show during these games, during your play?
일단 블라디 상대로 지금 다른 선수들도 마찬가지.
Well, against Vladimir, not just me, other players tend to pick Anivia to counter it.
픽하기도 하고. 뭐 그렇지만 제가 좀 애니비아를 하면
And for me personally,
가면 약간 좋다고.
Anivia is one of those champions that bring me confidence in my games,
무난한 픽이지 않을까.
and it's one of those regular picks that I would go to when it's open.
연결되는 게 블라디에 대한 이제 생각이거든요.
We want to hear, connecting to that point, we want to hear your comments on the Vladimir as a champion. We didn't see the best performance out of the champion from you from the first game, but what are your personal comments on the champion?
블라디 같은 경우에는 제가 좀 들어가서 이니시를 자주 하는 편인데.
Vladimir, I like to go aggressive and make the first initiation, opening up a team fight.
좀 연습 경기에서도
And
되긴 했는데.
during practice, I accomplished that pretty well, but today's game, unfortunately, I didn't do as well as I had practiced. But in the end, we got the victory, and so we're just trying to get better, and I'll personally try to get better on the champion and show a better game next time.
좀 긴장이 이상하게 돼야 될 때는 안 되고 좀 안 돼야 될 때 되는 좀 그런 게 있더라고요.
저는 페이커 선수 그 페페 승승승할 때 두 번 지고 나서 웃고 있던 장면 생각나거든요.
We remember the time where he had a lost win, and he started smiling. What was some of the situation behind that?
잘안 되더라고요. 그래서
It was one of those things that and things didn't go as expected, and it's just a smile that came off of it.
보여줬었던 뭐 애니비아 플레이를 보면서 좀 얘기를 나눠볼까요?
Let's look at some of his Anivia plays, and I have a further interview.
덕을 환상적으로 치는 것 같아요.
To start off, this is a team fight where
커드라키를 만들어야
Anivia made a quadra kill off of this.
대해서 조금 아쉬움을 갖진 않으셨는지
Were there some kind of disappointment from you not getting the pentakill off of it?
생각도 안 하고 있어서.
Well, I wasn't really focusing on that, but just trying to get the kills where I could.
커드라 했을 때.
And after I got the quadra, I realized that I could have got the penta. But while I was making the play, I was just focused on making the plays, and I wasn't thinking anything behind that. Well, right now we just ended the game with you having your career 999th kill.
저는 솔직히 킬이 좀 많이 남아서. 못할 거라고 생각을 하긴 했지만.
With me, I personally was worried because I was getting so many kills that other teammates cannot contribute as much. But otherwise, 990 kills does sound very good, and I'm very happy with it.
과정이나 이런 부분에서 궁금한 게 마지막까지 고민하다가 이제 애니비아로 좋은 플레이.
In the ban pick phase, we saw you picked out Anivia, and something that surprised us was Bang picking Twitch, and he did struggle throughout the game with the champion. What were some of the comments you made within the team?
네, 애니비아랑 트위치가 좀 강점이 약간 서로 시너지가
We thought of the synergy that Nvidia and Twitch had in together. That when it's combined, that it has a very strong potential for making big plays. With all the bans against Bang, we really didn't think we had any other choice but to pick Twitch, and that was just some of our last resort that we went to. But fortunately, we did well.
저는 항상 그 페이커 선수가 카시오페아를 상대할 때를 보면 항상 감탄이 되는 것 같은데.
But every time we see you, Faker, face off against Cassiopeia, it just impresses us every time. It is some of the things that where you evade these skill shots where other players wouldn't have been able to. What are some of your thoughts going into against Cassiopeia?
그런 건 일단 아닌 것 같고. 저희가 이니시에이팅을 좀 카시가 앞에 튀어나와
when Cassiopeia gets a little overextended, we just try our best to cut her off as soon as we can.
앞에 튀어나와 있다 보니까 다들 좀
And every time we get that chance, that's what we did today, and we just ended up with a good place. But it's one of those things where we have to exchange our ults, and we were just hoping to get the better out of it, and that's what we did.
또 그 장면이 준비가 되어 있는 것으로
We have that
알고
scene
있거든요.
where we can look at it,
중간차 때마다 대부분 피하시더라고요.
and we see Faker evading all these skill shots. Let's look at it.
여기서도 밀어내고
You push it. And this is a situation where it could have seemed like you could have easily got hit by it, but you amazingly you avoided it.
여기 저희까지 다 포함해서 누구나 다 피할 수 있는 거 맞죠?
Faker just said that he thinks anybody can avoid those skill shots, and that's some of the comments that he just made.
역시 꿀팁이네요, 꿀팁. 그렇습니다. 좀 생각하는 게.
So the tip that you gave us today regarding that play was just avoid it. Anybody can do it. That's all you gave us.
Faker's hot tip. Get good, guys.
연달아 승리를 하셨습니다. 그리고 이어서 이제
Stop
다음 주
sucking.
월요일에는 현재 기세가
You just got your win, and you're against MVP on next Monday. What are some of your ratings on the team?
MVP도 좀 승강전에서 올라온 팀답지 않게
With MVP coming off of the Challengers League, and they're one of the teams that you shouldn't look down on, and you really got to prepare hard to face those such teams. And with against Rocks and this game against KT, it's a no different game where we have to prepare hard and have a right mindset going into it to have a good game against them. Are you honest about that? Yes, I'm very honest about that.
부스 안에서 좀 덥거나 그러시진 않나요?
With that vest on, are you not hot inside the booth?
안에서는 제가 제일 추위를 많이 호소하는 편이라.
Well, personally, you see that other teammates aren't wearing the vest inside the booth, but I get pretty cold inside the booth, so that's why I wear it.
응원해 주시는 팬 여러분들께 마지막으로 한 말씀. MVP죠.
Yeah, give us one more comment to the fans out there.
좀 MVP 2번 타긴 했지만
I got MVP 2 times in a row,
만족스럽진 못했거든요.
but with my personal performance, I wasn't fully satisfied with it, and I want to have better performance where we can win much cleanly. And that seems to be the end of the interview. Back over to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Joel, for the translation. So Faker is telling everybody, you know what, just stop being so bad at the game, and then you can
So
do all the
easy.
things that I do. It's as simple as that.
Just predict all the skill shots. It's easy.
You just got to put your mind to it. Of course, though, SK Telecom coming up 2-1 over top of KT Rolster, which will net them first place for the moment, we shall say, at the top of the standings in LCK Summer, because things have still been shifting around, and Rocks Tigers now have a chance not to get first place, but to continue climbing up the standings and make up for their loss that they just suffered at the hand of SK Telecom just 2 days ago, as they will be taking up against Jin Air Green Wings in just a little bit. Of course, we do have to go to a little bit of an extended break so the players have time to get into the booths, but we'll take a look at the standings now. So SKT in that first place spot, +3 over top of Samsung, who are in second, and KT Rolster will fall below Rocks, now in fourth.
Yeah, best Rocks can finish is +7 in terms of game score, so they will finish third if they take down Jin Air 2-0, as you'd expect in the last series of the day, which will be an interesting one to see, because Jin Air have been in free fall since patch 6.11 hit, and Rocks Tigers have looked good on the whole, barring the loss against SK Telecom, but I'm really interested to see where the two teams we just saw go from here. SKT had that difficult week, now have the match against MVP.
Yep.
As you said, they put MVP to the sword in the most decisive fashion, and that was actually when they started losing. They lost to Jin Air after
Yeah.
that series. They lost 2 series in a row. So will they recreate history? Will it be a different series? It'll be interesting to see. And
I mean,
difficult matchup next up as well for KT Rolster.
Yeah,
we don't
for
know
sure.
what Rocks Tigers will do in the next series. We expect them to win, but KT's VOD review of this series will be super interesting.
Yeah, but MVP, of course, looking better, so SKT might have a little bit more to deal with
We
in
can
that
hope.
game. We can hope. But we're going to go to a quick break, guys. We'll be back in about 15 minutes as we let the players from the next game get settled. We'll see you then. Don't go anywhere.